Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another Fired Up Friday with my lovely friend, Candidly Tiff. And we are here to talk about some of the crap that is going on in this country. And of course, as always, it's a lot. It's a lot. And I thought today that we would cover the talk about the 205th. Sorry about that. About the 250th, and also about the recent Maine elections and that candidate, and the blow up and the blowback from all of that, and where the Democratic Party is right now, and where we hope or think it might go in the future. So let's get into it. Let's start with the America 250. I host the my weekly Good Trouble chat on Spoutable. And one of the things that I have been doing, of course, we as Black people know that our history has never been taught in full in this country. And now we have an administration that is actively seeking to erase it. And I just think that at this particular time, because, as nations go, we are a relatively young nation, and we are still being formed. We are still growing up. And I think in order for us to mature into the nation that, everyone wants to think that we are, we have to deal with the truth of our history. And I feel like right now the things that are going on are kind of forcing that truth to be discussed, because previously, we could talk about some of these things and some of the aspects of that untold history, the systemic racism, and people, kind of brush you off or whatever. But I think everything is on such full display now. One of the most disgusting things, and a display of just kind of an example of our history, was those Patriot Front guys
Oh my God.
marching.
Let me tell you, I was at my mom's house 4th of July. So I was there from Friday until Saturday. And so I was cooking and getting prepared, getting stuff, just putting stuff together in the house and trying to get it because we were going to have a barbecue. And I didn't see that picture because I didn't have my phone all day. Like I just put I made a Substack in the morning and I did not touch my phone in terms of like looking on social media until later in the day.
Good
And
for
when I
you.
saw, and when I know I needed it, when I saw that picture, I was like, I literally, my mouth kind of just dropped to the floor. Not because I was shocked that they were there. It was the fact of that they were so bold, but yet so cowardly to not even show their faces,
That part.
right? That you came on the bus, you went on the train, you're out there, you're marching, but it just was very much kind of what we always felt about the KKK, like y'all are all cowards, and you are not, and who knows who these people are. They could be people that we work with, they could be people that we are going to seek care from. We don't know who these people are because they were too weak and too cowardly to show their faces and their true and who they truly are, which is white supremacists, white nationalists.
Mhm.
And it's something that we've been talking about all this time. But I did think it was interesting when I saw a bunch of people kind of like I saw one of my friends, Erica, on Thread. She had to give a breakdown. She was like, because people weren't understanding 250. Like, where did 250 come from? They're like, but people were enslaved in America 400 plus years ago, and people were like, yes, that's when we got like independence. Like, I don't think people even understand history, which is so scary. They don't even understand that we were also a colonized country under British rule, and the reason we got independence as a country and became America is because we created the Declaration of Independence. We were free from the colonialization of this country, but that colonialization didn't stop the slavery. It didn't stop the white supremacy in this country. We are living in a continuation of that, while we have progressed in some ways through the civil rights movement, through court cases, Brown versus Board of Education. We are still dealing with the people, the ancestors of the people that live are on this in this country now are still here, and they still hold the same views. So we are literally just walking through this, but in a different era, in a different way.
Exactly. I was talking to my daughter this morning before we came on, and really just kind of talking about how, at the end of my Good Trouble chat, I read John Lewis's quote about not getting lost in despair, and that it is the struggle of a lifetime, and it truly is. And then about Scott King's telling us, that each generation has a responsibility in this fight. And this is just this generation's fight. And it just happens to um, really, really expose a lot of history that has been buried and tried to be erased. And again, while it is awful, I think that again, it is a good thing because people cannot deny it. Like you said, it was on full display. Their racism and their cowardness, and it's still, it's so ironic. These are the same people who lost their minds because they had to wear a mask during the pandemic.
Exactly. The hypocrisy is like so astounding to me. They're mad about they're constantly mad about everything, DEI and mask and vaccines and all this other stuff. Yeah, it was hot as hell that day here, D. I was in New Jersey, but I mean it was same weather. I mean it
Mhm.
was over 100 degrees to be
Yeah,
wearing
because they
them.
canceled the parade, didn't
Yeah,
they?
I mean, it was, and there were storms later on in the evening. I had to drive home in that. It was a disaster. I mean, it was really, really bad. The fact that Trump didn't even want the people to leave. Like, I mean, it was a really bad storm. I saw the videos from my, like, my Ring camera of the storm. I could see my backyard. I mean, trees. I was driving the next day, trees down all over the place. There was power outages. I mean, we had a really bad storm. But it's the simple fact that it was so
The
hot,
ancestors.
and they had masks on, covered like that. Like, do you know how hot it was? Oh my God. It's so ridiculous. But it just goes to show you that when people want to do something or prove a point, that they're willing to do anything to prove it. And all it was a show. We talk about performative stuff. That was performative. It was something that they were trying to do to intimidate people. And I think the part of the photo that people were captivated by was kind of the look on that woman's face, because her face was like almost in stone, like she was like stuck in that moment, in that time, and with no reaction on her face, just focused like straight ahead, just looking like, I can't even believe what I'm seeing right now. And
Mhm.
I think that's why people were like, wow, this photo, is really impactful. And sometimes you need photojournalists to capture a moment in time, and that probably will be the photo that most people will remember from that 250 celebration that was supposed to be
It
celebrated,
exactly.
and it really wasn't.
Exactly. I mean, and that because that photography is my hobby. I love it. I do nature, but it is because it's like photography can kind of capture a moment, and that one picture captured the moment of our nation, and
Mhm.
certainly the celebration around it. I think it speaks volumes. It also speaks to the fact that I didn't even I wasn't aware of this until maybe a couple of days ago that people were talking about that photo in the same terms that you and I are. It's, historic, and that it deserves, like a Pulitzer, and all those things, which I agree with. But I didn't realize that in certain MAGA circles that they were actually starting to circulate it along with an old mugshot of this young
Oh
lady
my
where
God.
she had been arrested or
Yeah.
something, which, like, what did that have to do? I mean, she was on that bus minding, or train minding her business. But
Exactly.
this again points to the constant and the historic dehumanization
Exactly.
of Black people. Like, no matter what we do, how we're living our lives, they have to dehumanize us. And if there is any violence or the threat thereof, we have to be made the perpetrators, even though we are not. Like, that lady was sitting there minding her business. And I thought it was also, for me, to me, the other thing that I read in that was them showing Trump, we're here for you. Like, he got that
Exactly. It
slush
was a
fund.
show. It
Hmm.
was a show for Trump to say,
Hmm.
look at us. We're here to support your event. And we're not scared of you, and we're not scared of anybody. We can come and do whatever we want. But at the end of the day, I mean, what impact did they really have other than to try to be intimidating, which the people in DC were not intimidated. I want you to take your behinds to Southeast and do that crap. You weren't going to do that in Southeast. You're going to go to the mall where there's a whole bunch of cops and a whole bunch of people and try to show that foolishness. Go to the hood. I want to see you do that. Yeah, go get your ass whooped. I mean,
No,
this
because
is
if they did that, again, there would be a counter narrative that they would spin somehow or another,
yeah,
even
for
though they
sure.
were places they didn't belong, that, whatever happened, it was the people, there who they were trying to intimidate who would
Exactly.
become the.
Which is funny because the people that they were trying to most likely trying to intimidate were people of Black and people of color who were just trying to get from A to B.
Because they weren't out there like
We
that. They
weren't
weren't.
out here celebrating no damn 250 because I mean, let's be real. Like it was a day off for most people. Most people stayed home or went to visit family like I did with at my parents' house in New Jersey. And listen, people have their own feelings about 4th of July. I know I do. I wrote a Substack about how I felt that morning cuz listen, I'm not a person that's like, "Yay, it's 4th of July." I've never been that kind of person
Well,
because I
we have
understand
Juneteenth. That
'cause,
that
yeah, I understand the history of this country. There's not really much, and especially now, there's not really much to celebrate. I mean, maybe if Kamala was in office, maybe we had a different we had a different perspective on this. Maybe we would feel a little bit different, in the way that we would see things. But with Trump in office, I think most people just feel kind of dejected about the whole situation about this country. I mean, unless of course they're MAGA, then of course they think that everything is going great, even though they're being gouged like I don't know what. But
yes.
I think most people, they
Hey,
chose
Dallas.
of course Dallas, they chose to celebrate it in the best way that they knew how, whether it was having a cookout, spending time with family, or literally sitting at the TV doing nothing. And all of it is okay. I don't really like that people like judge people based on how they celebrated the day because everybody celebrates things in different ways. And I know more people that had cookouts on Juneteenth than they did on July 4th. But if you go to a cookout on July 4th, that's not saying you're supporting the president or in any
A
it's
day
just
off to enjoy yourself any
yeah,
way
we
that
have to,
you
like you said,
want.
at this point, we always talk about joy and we have to enjoy joy. It's a day off. Not many people, we don't get that many days off in this country unless you have
And
vacation.
we don't have a lot of, summer holidays. Like, most of our
Exactly.
federal holidays are in the fall and winter
Right.
months. So,
Right. So
it is.
yeah, I mean, and the days that we do have are not, like, I didn't even get off on Juneteenth. My job doesn't get off on that day. So this was the first time since, Memorial Day that we've been off. And then you have July 4th, then you have Labor Day, which that's a day off too. Then you kind of go down the lines like Columbus Day, which no one cares about anymore. Veterans Day, which is not something that people celebrate, and then you have Thanksgiving, Christmas, and New Year's. So this is the summer day that most people have off, and it was a long weekend at that because most people had off Friday as well.
Yeah.
So I just didn't like the fact that some people were judging how people were celebrating the day or not celebrating the day. It's to me it's not that serious. Like you
That's
do
a
whatever the hell
personal.
you wanted to do on that day.
Exactly, that's a personal thing. And then, kind of, as we wrap this up, because I'm doing, my, Good Trouble chat all this month, I'm kind of focusing on aspects of America 250, the untold saga, the problematic parts of our history. And one of the things with this actual celebration, which had started um, being planned, I think maybe even in the Obama administration, they set up commissions and things like this, and there was money set aside. I believe $150 million for a national celebration, America 250, and how a lot of that was to go to the parks department, the National Park Service, because they are the keepers of our monuments and things like this. And how all of that basically was stolen by this administration, and donors who wanted to contribute to the celebration were duped. Like, they thought that they were contributing to this official America 250 celebration, and their money transfers and stuff were going into the Freedom 250, which is Trump fund. And again, it just was another glaring example of the corruption within this administration and the state of our nation,
It
really.
really was. I mean, even the fireworks, like when I was reading the articles, I mean, it rained and everything, and they had to delay it. So they were kind of having jokes like it was the best July 5th fireworks ever because part of it ended up happening
Yeah,
the
because he
next.
didn't even give his speech until I think like 11
Yeah,
p.m. or
I mean,
something
I'm
like
telling
that.
you, it poured so bad here. I was on the road at like 9, heading back this way, and I could not believe the rain, the way that it was falling. Like it was, I was
Well, I'm
going.
glad you made it safely,
Yeah,
but
me
yeah.
too. It was scary, but I think my friend Zatarian, he did a great video. I don't know if you saw. I posted it of the 250 celebration and how him and his friend went to to the celebration, and they were going through all the different states, and the how much the food was costing and how empty it was, and he had like the best. It was the best video to
I
make you
saw that. Yeah.
kind of laugh at the because and again, you have to kind of laugh this off because there's no otherwise you're gonna cry. But it was so good that they did that video, and he's so funny because he was walking around with his suit on. I'm like, the Tyrion is hot. Is I don't know what out there, but God bless you for he's always gonna be fly. So he with his afro and all the people looking at him like, where are you? He's like the only black person there. Like it's like
What
hilarious.
are you doing here? And
Yeah,
again, it
pretty much.
speaks to the state of
Him and
our
his friend who's
nation.
Asian, and they're videotaping. They're on the Ferris wheel and they're looking down and how empty it is. It was like, I mean, the stage fell apart at one point. I think we saw in videos that somebody was performing and then something like fell on the stage. I mean, it was so ghetto. Like it was so bad. And for what? Like it didn't. The thing is, when you're dealing with people that are corrupt, they do all of these things, and at the end of the day, what was gained by messing with the reflecting pool? Nothing. It still has algae. They're still pumping algae out of that thing. It was supposed to be like so beautiful, and this blue that's supposed to be reflect. What was the point? You gave $13 million to somebody who made it worse.
Exactly. And
Unbelievable.
yeah, and now trying to charge people,
Right.
erroneously with vandalizing it. When I didn't even realize this, but now I do recall a little reporting on it. But I guess when they drained it, that they actually rolled across it like the beast, his car, like
Yeah.
he was driving across it to tour it in Brat, when he was doing all of those crazy AI things. But they actually did drive across it. So you think that might have had something to do
Right.
with it peeling?
It's just so stupid. Like sometimes I just sit and think like, how did we get here? But then I know exactly how we got here because people, again, they fall into this trap. And listen, when we talk about Maine, I feel like Democrats, a lot of these white Democrats have fallen into the same trap where they excuse people's bad behavior and it's become and Plattner definitely built like some sort of cult like following until finally they had to hear that he raped someone, that then that was the final straw. But everything else before that, they were like, okay, fine, we'll do what we got to do.
Well,
We're
they had, yeah, they had to hear it twice about him, you know.
exactly, yeah. Well, this was the final straw. I mean,
Mhm.
it's like the last one. That one was she was a Republican op, so we're not gonna listen to her. But now this time it was an actual Democrat, and so now we can listen. The whole thing is just so frustrating because we saw it from the beginning. I mean, like my friend Liz said, she said, people say it was from the, that it was a red flag from the what do you call it, the Nazi tattoo. But really the red flags were there before that. They were there with the Reddit post. They were there when he was like excusing SA. Like, I mean, there's so many things that he was doing beforehand that should have been red flags to people. And listen, not all red flags are going to be like, okay, we got to get rid of the person. But when
They're
you
not
start,
gonna be terminating
yeah,
offenses.
but when you start seeing a pattern of behavior, then you know that it's not just a one-time thing. There is more. Every single time, I said this the other day, I said every single excuse that this man has had for why he has done something is because he was drunk. And when people start to blame alcohol, like James Fox blaming it on the alcohol, yeah, you keep blaming it on that, but you are the one that put the alcohol in your body, and you were the one
It's
who did
it's
the.
a ju it's a judgment thing, and that's why, like, I thought when I heard his long,
Oh my God, that was horrible.
withdrawal, like 10, 11 minutes or whatever, still victim blaming, or whatever, it just showed that to me, he was not a person of integrity or great character, which, people aren't perfect, I get that, but the pattern of behavior that we have seen with receipts on this guy just said, you should be nowhere near the Senate, or, in my opinion, in any politics, even local. You're just not a great representative.
And you're
And,
just not a good person at this point. You're just not a good person.
and
And you
and
need to go.
then he wanted to have a say in choosing his replacement. Okay, you already exercised bad judgment. We know that. That's why you're having to step down. And now you want to use your bad judgment to shove somebody else on the
Yeah,
main voters? Ridiculous.
yeah, unbelievable. The audacity, the caucasity of it all, to think
Exactly.
that you can be the one to dictate who's going to be the next. The whole point is, and it's so funny because the same way that people didn't like that Biden was the one who wanted Kamala to be, they were like, oh, you need to have an open primary. You needed it. The same people were like, oh yeah, let's just let him pick whoever he wants. Like, no, you guys are such hypocrites. I cannot deal with
And
the
they are
hypocrisy.
constantly moving the goalposts.
It is
Like
absurd.
I mean, it's just like with the Republicans and Trump. It's rules for me, for thee, but not for me. Like, there is always going to be a different set of rules and standards for them. And usually the them are people who are trying to do awful thing or exhibiting awful behavior. But I do love that the spokesman that they have for the
She's
main
great.
Democrat, she basically told him, "Look, dude, you need to just go. You don't have a say in this
Loved it.
process, and the quicker you go, the quicker we can get on with choosing a replacement and doing the work that we're going to do." And I felt like the un said part of that was like, "You done cost us enough already, dude.
Right.
Just shut up
She
already."
pretty much said, "Get your ass out of here."
Yeah.
It was great because you know what? I think at that point, I don't think a man could have delivered that message properly. You needed a
Mhm.
woman to deliver that message to say, "Get your ass up out of here. We're done with you, and you got to go." And you're not gonna try to intimidate us because that's what basically it sounded like she was saying. You're trying to intimidate.
Mhm.
Of course, it is five. It is what, almost 5 o'clock on the East Coast, and this man still has not withdrawn. He has until Monday at 5 p.m. to do so. So and I know that he's going to be there 4:30 p.m. to just kind of drag this out, because that's the kind of personality that he has. That's just, and he thinks, he in his mind believe that the establishment, excuse me, and APAC and everybody and their mama is trying to get him, Chuck Schumer especially. It's like Chuck Schumer actually endorsed you against his, probably, he wasn't you weren't his preferred candidate. Janet Mills was, which I have issues with the fact that they kind of, I hate when they put their thumb on the scale and try to like move people out of races, and then stuff like this happens and it's not good. But the point is that, no, dude, you were the one who did the act. The fact that you couldn't even take responsibility and ranted for 11 minutes about how it was everyone's fault but your own, told me everything I needed to know about you as a man. I said it before, even the last time when the wife went out there and
that hostage video she made.
I was like, that showed me right there exactly who you were. But this in itself was just atrocious. It was unbelievably just so like demented in a way. Like you are a demon.
It was, and I don't know if you heard the subtlety of some of the stuff that he was saying, but I was peeping that, and he was actually like issuing a call to arms, basically, of people like, come on. It was so Trumpian, like, y'all come out here and protest and demand that they give me the funds and allow me to stay in or whatever, because I can't do it because the establishment's has cut off the funds, but you're the people who are talking about funding being problematic, and you don't want, this corporate funding or whatever, but you realize that it is just part of how campaigns work, like the duplicity, the hypocrisy of all of them. But what I do love, I am here for all of the smoke that everyone who used their bad judgment to endorse this guy, the Bernies, the Warrens, the Garcia, what's his name, Gallegos and Rocanas, like all of you went and full-chested endorsed him. Like, what were you thinking? Because at this point, the Nazi thing was all out there. That was known, okay? And to me, that should have been a non-starter. But there was so much more. But, I feel like there is a conversation being had, because some people feel like, of course, we need to win. And to a certain extent, by any means necessary. But we don't have to become horrible people to become like MAGA to win. I mean, I am not willing to sacrifice my integrity, nor do I think the party should, to win, because what are we really winning when we do that?
Exactly. And I feel like the way that I look at this whole situation is that Graham Plattner was their Frankenstein. Okay. They picked him out of a video. I don't know if people realize. I think Simone kind of laid it out. I had talked about this before, like in October, when I read the article in the New Yorker about how they picked him. They found him in a video. He was doing like an oyster farm video, like kind of like a conservation
tourist thing.
Yeah. So he was on a boat, and I saw the video when it came out, when I was doing the research about him in October. We're now in July. And the whole process of how they went and got him, the Morris Katz guy who helped Mamdani with his his videos. He went out there and they kind of recruited him and made a video that cost thousands of dollars. And they pitched him to the fight agency or whoever, Rebecca Katz and them. They came out there and tried to convince him to become the nominee. They gave him a week to decide if he wanted to be the nominee. This other guy, the guy with the voice, I forget his name now. That's with the lady in the Wall Street Journal video where he's talking about like lightly vetted him, and he had like, I don't know, a couple of days to do it. And they're laughing about it like it's funny. It's not funny. I mean, he was their Frankenstein, and then they got Bernie to back him, and then they got Rokana to back him, and then they put up the one that will never make sense to me is Liz Warren. I do like Bernie. He's to me, he has his
Yes.
tendencies of misogyny, and he
I
wrote
mean, we know that he is
an article and
misogynistic.
all this stuff, and he is who he is, and I think Bernie believed that he was going to be the next Bernie. I mean, that's the way that I saw it. But the Liz Warren one really befuddles me, but it also doesn't, because she has terrible instincts that you got behind him and so full throated. Like, she went out there, she was doing events with him, even after the Nazi thing, even after this,
The
the
article with
even
the
after the
first
last article yeah,
sexual
she went
assault
out there and
allegation.
was doing events with him. So it's like, where is your integrity? Because we have a question about his integrity, but where these other people's integrity, that you overlooked all this stuff, and even to the point where Rokana was like, yeah, he's a changed man, and he's a different person than he was before, and then you see this again. It's just like it was you built this person up who didn't have no reason to be built up, and because what? Because he's a good speaker, and
And because he looked apart, they basically wanted to he fit the look. It was kind of like they did Trump with The Apprentice, okay? He had the look and a little bit of the criteria in being an oyster farmer, but of course that was a hobby, and nothing wrong on that, but you're trying to paint this dude as a working class guy, a military guy, and his military history is abhorrent. Like, he and the way that he talked about it. I had a little bit of a conversation with someone saying, well, he went into the military because a lot of people feel like that's a good padding in the resume for political office. I was like, that dude had no thoughts about being in politics. He went into the military because he liked the thought of fighting and killing people. He talked about it with glee. Like, he has said some
right,
awful things about war, and the fact that he also, in part of his military history, um, joined the Blackwater mercenaries. So
right.
he just likes killing people. Okay.
Right, and that's the thing that I never really understood. It's like, we have had so many conversations about war, and most leftists, and I think most people don't agree with war. I mean, this man volunteered to go into a war, and like you said, he even afterwards he went back into in terms of being a contractor. So whatever his intentions were when he went into the military, I don't think we'll ever really understand, but everything that I've read about him makes me believe that he went into the military and it was to kill people. And then even, but the thing is, the whole like working class thing is killing me, right? Because this is a person that went to a private
Prep
school,
school. Yeah.
private school.
$50,000 a year prep school.
Exactly. His parents have money. His father bought him a house. I mean, this is privilege we're talking here. We're talking white privilege here.
Yeah, but he's
And,
speaking for the working
and
class.
the thing is, even when polling, like even last week when the polling came out, he wasn't even winning working class vote. Like, he wasn't winning, like non-college educated voters. He's winning college educated because that's who he appealed to. They like that aesthetic. They like
But
the scruffy kind of brash,
the
big eye,
the
beard.
disaffected the what do they call themselves, the disaffected young white men, and that's the mystical vote that they want us to chase, kind of how in the past it was the white suburban moms. Like, I am so frustrated that it's like they always want us to focus on these mystical voters who actually never materialize, like they don't actually go to the voting booth and deliver. But we are supposed to focus our messaging and our attention and all of our, get out the vote efforts and things around these voters. Again, it's centering whiteness because
Yeah, and I mean, in Maine, the whole center is whiteness, right? I mean,
yes,
it's a
yeah,
94% white state. And what appeals to them may not necessarily appeal to us. And that's fine. But I still, to this moment, don't really understand what the appeal of Plattner was, other than the fact that he was a non-establishment type of character who was not was an outsider. And I think people do like the concept of an outsider who isn't taking
yeah, an underdog. We like that.
underdog,
Yeah.
not taking corporate money, not, not, doesn't take APAC money, doesn't, walk around with, being an elitist, or allegedly not being an elitist. But I do think that people in Maine, specifically from what I've seen, they kind of did like his aesthetic. They liked the words that were coming out of his mouth. He himself was just a problematic person. It had nothing to do with how he was messaging, because I think people related to that. Now, that was Democratic voters, because that's who, and some independents who voted in the primary. And at that point, voting in the primary, Janet Mills was already gone. So people were like, "Oh, he won with 70%." Yeah, because the lady was gone. Everybody knew that. So y'all are making this into a big thing. But the key was never just to win the Democratic nomination. It was to win the general election. And everybody knew that once you got into the general election, that now you're in a whole nother ballgame, because guess what? The man is broke. They said he only had $100,000 in his bank account. And guess what? He was getting, like, I don't know what's the right word. I don't want to use the M word. He was getting obliterated in commercials. Like, they were actually just tearing him apart in commercials, because they had so much damn material that Susan Collins, who has Republican backing and Republican super PAC money, and likely was going to have RNC money to be able to help her win. She has a ton of money, that they were going to attack him to no end.
Hmm.
And then obviously when the DCCC, when the DSCC finds this stuff out, they're like, "We're not giving you any money. We got to withdraw money, because there's all other kind of races to win, and right now you're not going to win a damn thing." And here we are. So he himself was broke. I don't know. I assume they were spending a ton of money on consultants, making themselves all rich and grifting, like we've been saying all along. And now it's sad, because the next person that is going to have to run for this race is literally going to start from scratch, because all of the candidates that were running, they were running in the gubernatorial, like, primary. But that
Hmm.
money doesn't transfer over. So you have to have, like, federal, you gotta have to put it in a pack, and the pack has to send it. Like, you have to do all kinds of things to go around the rules of this. So these people are starting from scratch, and they're going to need major help to try to beat Susan Collins. But you better pick somebody that's actually worthwhile. You can
Yeah.
pick progressive, but it doesn't have to. I'm like, pick the one.
You can pick someone who actually understands civics, because this guy gave me no indication that he actually did. He was just like, a Bernie, populist message person. He said all the things or whatever, but I don't think he had any idea of how to, get them actually done, like passed in legislation, or cared. He was just, telling people what they wanted to hear to get their votes. And I think that this has also been another glaring example of, you guys need to listen to Black women, the base of the party, to Black people. And this is the lesson that I hope the Democratic Party begins to take away. Like, we know that the pod bros and
Mhm.
this consultant class has been very involved in lifting people like him up and others. And there are similar organizations within the Black community or that exist that have more of a pulse, you know, are more in tune with the actual voting base of the Democratic Party that could advise them. I was watching a Roland Martin interview with I can't remember her name, Katrina. I can't remember, but
Dance
she has
school?
a strategist. She's a strategist,
Okay.
and it's called Sojourner
Yeah.
Strategies, and
White woman or black woman?
a black
Okay.
woman. But there are strategists. There are, and they were talking about the polling that they have done because he was this segment that he was doing was really coming up with solution focused on trying to bring the kind of folks who don't do politics, that kind of
Right.
35%, 85 million Americans who just have dropped out of that civic process, trying to bring them back in. And I think that they had some great ideas, and I think that the Democratic Party should start to listen to them more. I think that they should start spending more money in those places and with new media. I mean, they go onto these cable shows, and we have already talked about how not a lot of people, especially this younger voting bloc, are getting their news and information from cable. But there are shows like Roland Martin, like Don Lemon, and others who actually have a greater reach within, certain demographics that would be very helpful and beneficial to them, I think. But they don't, put that much money into those kinds of networks or new media, or even, like I know strategists like what's the dude, Mike Nellis and
Yeah.
others, all of them, like I said, have mainly one thing in common: their color. And that is just not
Amen.
the base of the party, and I don't see how they don't connect those dots and do better and come up with better strategy, because we're still gonna be spending all of this energy and effort, money, and stuff to keep falling short because
Yeah,
they're not.
and I always have to ask, like, what is it truly that will connect to get Black voters, Latino voters out to vote, right? And I still don't know. I really don't know. Like, not us. I mean, we're people that consistently vote, and there are millions of people who consistently will show up at the polls and they will go vote and do what they need to do. But I would say that most people that do vote, they're not necessarily they're doing it because they know that it's the right thing to do, but are they really motivated to do it? Are they really connecting with the candidates that they're voting for? I don't know. And I actually thought it was good that Westmore, my gov, went on Jubilee, which I hate that show, but I think there's two episodes. Isaiah did a really good on there. When he went on there, he did a really good job of, like, kind of talking through some of those Trump talking points. But what West went on there for was not to talk about Trump. It was to talk about voting and why. And this was a group of people who did not or have not voted. They chose to. They chose
Roland
to sit
mentioned
out,
that in
right?
this episode.
They sat out the election and they were non-voters, and so he's trying to connect with them. And some of the people walked away saying, they didn't learn anything. Some people said, yeah, no, I understood the importance of voting. Some people walked away with the same feelings that they came in with. So you have, and a lot of those feelings are what we would consider the lesser of two evils kind of mentality, or you have like the corruption piece of it. And I do think Democrats should talk about corruption more, and they need to address it within their own self, right? Because we have allowed many corporations, many of these large donors to
Have
impact our
too much
politics.
to have too much influence, and also they have taken part in the trading, the
Stock
stock
trades. I
trading,
mean,
and
come on, that's got
um,
that should be. If there is one thing, and I had said this to Hakeem's team. I said if there is one thing that y'all really need to be pushing right now is that stock trade thing, because guess what? People are sick of it. Trump is making billions of dollars on
mhm.
stocks, and he
And
keeps
there are people
telling
on both
people in
sides.
Congress. Yeah,
Yes, there are people
both
on both
sides say that.
sides who don't like it, and I agree. But I'm going to shoot you a link to this episode because uh, as I said, it's about 30 minutes, but
Okay.
it was really good because he offered some solutions and some examples in this woman, and because it's not easy work, it's not
No,
like a one and done, or it's steps 1, 2, and 3. What it is, it's a consistent type of work. It is really the type of work that our ancestors during the civil rights movement was doing, because it's about a constant educating of the populace, and it's about bringing them into the process at the local level, because then they get to
exactly.
actually see how it is affecting and impacting their lives and what change they can make. And when you pull them in at that level, then it's easier to bring them to state politics and to the federal level. But it requires an ongoing kind of educating and involvement and commitment.
I agree. Yeah, and I think that's why it was good that Westmore was on there, because he can talk from a state level, right? Because
Mhm.
the decisions at the state level, whether it's our assembly or whether it is the governor, those decisions trickle down to the cities. They trickles down throughout the state. And listen, there's valid concerns in our own state about affordability and the amount of fees that we have to pay. My car registration is now $200, which I don't appreciate because it used to be $200 for 2 years, and I'm still mad about that. But I don't blame the governor for that, right? I blame the
Mhm.
assembly because they needed to figure out a way to to make revenue, and so the people get stuck with it. How can you fix that? Well, maybe we figure out a way to means test it. Seniors, my mother-in-law doesn't make as much money as I do, so why is she paying the same amount for car registration? So there has to be people that think outside the box on some
Mhm.
of these things that people have. There's like so many things that happen on the state level that people do not understand, and the city level or on a county level here, whether it's data centers, whether it's our roads. We had floods this week. There's the buses, the trains, all of this stuff. Yes, the federal government provides money, they send money, but the people that actually have to implement these projects are on the state level, and people don't even recognize that. So we're sending people to Washington to basically bring home the dough. That's the way I look at it. That's the way I explain it.
Exactly.
Bringing home the dough to the gov, and then the gov has to determine, from with the assembly, the policies that will impact us most intimately, because we are living in the state. You live in a red state, and what they do at the state level and the local level impacts you. And yours is even worse because as I'm pretty sure in that you have when you have a blue local level and then you have a red state level, that's even worse because now you're just fighting over the money.
Well, actually, the money and also your ability to govern, because what they do here with this trifecta, the Republican trifecta, and they've done it in other places too, is like you said, even when they have a local government, let's take Memphis, who passed laws around some sensible gun laws, and a few other things, because it wasn't in keeping with the Republican state legislatures' laws, because they're passing laws to make gun laws more lax. They overturned the counties, ordinances and things around this, and the same can happen because we have a largely kind of a liberal city council here in Nashville. Well, one of the first things they did when they gained control of the legislature was actually to split that city council in half, to break it down. We used to have, I think it was 40 members, which is pretty large, but it represented the different aspects of communities here in the county. And they arbitrarily passed the law that no city council could have more than 20 people. Well, the only one that did was Davidson County. And so that was one way of taking away the power. That kind of backfired on them, because not only did we get more Democrats or liberal leaning people, we got a trans person on voted on, this.
Yeah, I mean the same thing here. When we had Larry Hogan as the governor, he was an asshole to Baltimore City, and he did not want to give them any money. He was horrible to Baltimore City. And then the people were wondering, like, why isn't there better transportation? Why isn't there better services? Why is there so much poverty? Why all these crime? I mean, all these things matter when it comes to money. Of course, you have to have ideas and policy, but if you don't have the money to do some of these things, guess what? It's not going to get accomplished. And what we're seeing with Wes Moore is that the ability for him to be able to have a good relationship with
those funds.
with Mayor Brandon Scott and with the state's attorney, that you're starting to see, and investing in programs, that you're starting to see a difference within the last couple of years of crime in Baltimore City. And I know people give Mayor Mamdani like all this credit, but I'm gonna say give Mayor Brandon Scott his flowers too, because he's doing excellent work within Baltimore City, which is a city that Trump said was rat infested and talked so much crap about. But he can't talk. There's one thing he cannot talk about right now, and that is crime, because crime is down in Baltimore City, and he is keeping the promises that he made. He's not a flashy person. He doesn't demand as much attention as a New York City mayor, but he deserves the credit that he should get for helping to make that city much better.
Yes, exactly. And you point to the thing where you said, now that he has a governor who is willing to partner with him and the initiatives around the city, you're seeing some progress being made. And that is kind of the cudgel that they use often, is funding, because that is how they threaten, Memphis and Shelby County. If they did certain things to take away their funding and stuff, and people often don't connect those dots. I think also people are not connecting the dot that even if we somehow are able to capture complete control of Congress, we still have a captured Supreme Court.
Yeah, a corrupt Supreme Court at that.
Mhm.
It's very much in line with the Heritage Foundation and Trump and MAGAism and all that stuff. And what we saw in the last couple of weeks is their decisions on how they are going to move forward with, kind of these decisions that they're putting out. I mean, thankfully, birthright citizenship was not taken away. So that was good on one hand. The ruling on campaign finance was terrible. The ruling on the trans sports was, people have mixed feelings on that. It's kind of a sad situation, because now you're putting these children in a place where they can't participate. So now that's less community they have. So it's like, where do you go? I don't know. It's like so much stuff that's happening, and the Supreme Court has the final say. And once they have the final say, then you kind of have to go around it and try to figure out how, whether it's a good or whether it's positive or negative for us or for Trump, they have the final say on the constitutionality of these decisions. And they're corrupt. They are very much corrupt. And we are not going to see a court that is fair, in my opinion, until we can get a Senate that will be able to confirm. And we need a president who's going to be able to appoint more, judges as these folks end up retiring and leaving. And moving on. And do we need maybe term limits? Absolutely. And that's another thing that Democrats need to focus on. There is many things that Democrats can focus on
Yeah.
as we go into 2026. I think Kamala actually put out on Substack today where she goes off about the fact that there's a lot of things that Democrats need to do, and she lists a full agenda of things that Democrats need to
I'll
get
have
done.
to check it out. But
Yeah,
I mean,
I saw
those are the
people
kinds
talking
of
about
things.
it. Yeah,
Yeah.
we need an agenda. They had Project 2025. Where is our agenda for the future? We keep talking about all these different things, but when we're talking about the future of our party, we need to be in line on many of these things, and
We
we're
need
not.
Exactly, and we need a long-term plan and strategy, not just jumping from election season to election season,
Exactly.
like starting brand new. We need to invest in that agenda and that vision and keep working toward building it. It's long-term work. We're likely not going to see, results in an election cycle or two, but it is will serve us well in the long run because we can see how they built this infrastructure that they were able to utilize to get them to the point that Project 2025 could be carried out with the swiftness and we need some of those things. And I think that in order to create those kinds of agenda, they're going to have to expand their listening ears and listen to a larger swath of the party, and certainly the loyal voting base needs to be brought into that conversation and included. And I feel like now that they're really not. They just are kind of expected to give the vote, and the consultants and all the other folks around are the ones who kind of get the attention, set the agenda. But this is an opportunity. There are many things that we could focus on, but as you said, the corruption, cost, and the courts. I mean, just those
I
three.
mean, those three alone could. I mean, you could build a whole. I could build a whole agenda around all those three items, and I don't understand why we are still in an election year, and we have each individual candidate, kind of fending for themselves and saying, because that's when you get like kind of these mixed messages that I feel like we're getting, because
Mhm.
we have candidates like, because right now the way I look at it, like Michigan, right? You have two Senate candidates. I watched the debate on, what was it, Tuesday? Yeah, on Tuesday that they had for the Senate campaign, and it's like droning. It's like you just hear the same thing over and over again. So like on one hand you have El Said, and he's like corruption, APAC, corporate donors. I mean, he stuck to his talking points. He was not going to get whatever the question was. He was gonna include that in there one way or the other, right? So you have that.
He's gonna weave it in the story. The answer.
He was dedicated to his talking points, and I listen. Sometimes you need repetition to get things through people's heads, and so that's his talking points, that's his selling points, and we'll see if it works on August 4th. Then you also had Haley Stevens, who was talking about her receipts, which she never showed, her record, and the fact that she gets shit done. Okay, that's great. But I don't know that the get stuff done kind of thing actually really resonates with people anymore, because if they don't feel it, they're not believing you. And it's really hard on a federal level to convince people that stuff is getting done at this point, especially with Trump in office. So
Yes.
I don't know how that's going to work, which is why I said I feel like these people need more. Like, even though they got buzzwords, like we have affordability, right? That encompasses, that's a key word that encompasses a whole lot of things: housing, healthcare. I mean, there's a lot of things that go into that. The cost of living, jobs,
Mhm.
minimum wage. I mean, affordability encompasses a lot of things. But what are y'all going to do to make things affordable? You still are not telling people how you're going to do that.
And as we close, again, like I said, I think this was an excellent segment that Roland did because he had a strategy or a solution to help with that, help bring people to understanding with that. I mean, you still have to like kind of connect that policy with people's pocketbook. But he
Exactly.
said that he had reached out to the Harris campaign, I think, mm, when maybe Joe was still on the ticket, not when, because she only had 100
Yes, yeah.
something days. But well, no, like he said in December 23, so was
Mhm.
she
Yeah.
then? I can't, yeah. So that, they should start talking, like he said, they should have spent like January to July reminding folks, like drilling it in folks' head, the policies that they had passed,
I
what they
agree.
had done, because he said that is one of the big faults. And I think we all agree is that the Biden administration was one of the most productive administrations that we have had in a long time as far as passing meaningful legislation, but they were not good at their PR around it and
Right. I
promoting
agree
it
with you.
and reminding people. And so he was essentially, making, long story short, saying that, they should have spent January to July reminding people of all these things. So, because, people still think Trump gave them those stimmy checks.
Oh, I
Why?
the thing is with that, I agree with that, but I also think we have to also remember like that time frame because everyone was focused on the war. Like
Exactly.
that so people were not even probably going to listen to that anyway because they were so focused on the Palestine and Israel kind of conflict
Yeah.
that was happening, war, genocide, whatever you want to call it. At that moment, people were definitely in tune to that. And I think people definitely started checking out. But my issue with the Biden campaign, is that there was never any forward thinking until Kamala came around. I mean, she had to build her own economic agenda when she came
Mhm.
in, and she had to do it in like 5 days because the media was like, "What's your economic agenda? What's your economic agenda?" And then she came up with
Exactly.
she came
And
up with
yeah.
things, but it was kind of too late at that point where people were already like, I don't care about this anymore. I don't want to be bothered with this. And yeah, she had good ideas, right? She had good ideas about giving people money for down payments, making Medicare, making, I think it was like home health care for, that's a big deal.
That
Like
that was a big deal,
that was
and
a
I
big
mean, it meant a
she
lot
had
for
good policy, but the
mhm.
policy got overridden by people's dissatisfaction with
Consultant
her
class.
answers about war and genocide and how she was going to move forward, and was she calling for a seat? I mean, this is what overtook that policy conversation, which would have been a normal thing in a normal year. But we kind of missed it. It was the mark was already missed because Biden didn't do that. And people can get mad at me for saying that. I don't care. I've said it a million times on my Twitter
They just weren't
that
good
they
at
that I remember it was the Michigan right after that debate. He did an event in Michigan. And I'm like, what is his policy going forward? What is the policy? You have no policy. We cannot live in the past. You have to move forward and tell us what we're going to do in the future. I mean, Trump didn't have policy either, but he also had the excuse of saying, guess what? I'm not him, and he hasn't done anything for you. And when I was here, the economy was going good, and people fed into that. They believed that lie, and look at where we're at now. God damn it.
it's true. And I mean, we can't, keep replaying that, but I do think that that is something that is important to
I do
do in the future and to include in the democratic messaging and the work, the civic work and teaching, but also reminding them that, it is the Democrats who brought you the civil rights and
too.
this and that. And this is when we did it. And, it's good because people have short memories, and some people don't know or haven't learned it at all. It's new
Yeah,
information for some
because
people.
people are like, "Oh my God, Mom Donnie's doing all these things," and I'm like, yeah,
Kamala had all of those.
and I'm like, yeah, he's doing it because he has a very blue city council, he has a blue governor, and he has an assembly who is blue as well. In a different state, he would never be able to get half. And then props to him for getting it done, for being forward thinking. I think that's the thing that I want to see
Mhm.
from any candidate going forward, whether it's in the Senate or it's in the House or for president. You need to be a forward thinker and think about what you're going to do to get us out of this hole, because we are in a hole right now. And if
Yeah.
you can't tell, I don't want to hear Trump is bad. We already know Trump is bad. He's a terrible person. There's no fixing him. The next person who's going to come behind him, they're probably going to be even worse, because they're going to be younger and they're going to have a different kind of agenda, but it's going to be the same thing. So the same thing applies to Democrats, right? You need to have an agenda that is going to be full of things. And if I don't see corruption on there, I don't want to talk to you. You're getting ignored. I don't care who you are.
Yeah.
You need to be ignored, because there's
It,
major things that need to change.
Yes, we definitely, and I think this is kind of a good note, to kind of wind down and wrap things up on. But they do need a message that is a progressive agenda, and a to bring people into that vision. I mean, they may not be able to deliver all those things, but they can be continually shaping and forming those visions. And we have much work to do, and we're in such a hole right now, as you said, that there's no end to the kinds of policies and things that they could build on to take us out of that, and to move us, leap years forward. So that we need people with bold vision and policies, and we need that fighter mentality. But just, as you said, the other side or the other guy is bad is not enough of messaging. Like, we don't need anyone to tell us that. Most people are living and seeing that.
Yeah, it's
So
frustrating, but it was good talking to you, Miss D, like usual.
likewise, and thank you guys for joining us. I see folks have joined us on YouTube, on X, and Spoutable, and on Substack. So we appreciate you guys joining us in these chats every 2 weeks. And make sure the next time, whenever you join us, you throw up hearts and on the YouTube and Substack to kind of stoke the algorithm a little bit for us. But we do appreciate your support, and we will see you guys back here in another 2 weeks. And I'm sure we'll have lots to talk about then. So,
Always do.
all right.
All
Bye bye,
right.
everyone.